The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in stunned silence as they watched a holographic display showing another solar system being consumed by the silver tide. The hive mind was unstoppable, turning everything it touched into more of itself. Captain Reed stood at the speaking platform, his blue scales reflecting the dim light. He was tired of watching his fellow soldiers die. For 6 months, they had lost battle after battle against this silicon menace. Their best weapons had failed. Their strongest shields had crumbled. Even their most advanced AI systems had been turned against them. "Honorable Council," he said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "We have lost 32 systems. Our weapons are useless. Our defenses are failing. If we continue like this, the hive mind will consume our entire galaxy within 2 years." The council president, an elderly being with crystalline features, leaned forward. "What do you suggest, Captain? We have tried everything in our power." Reed took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest would either get him fired or go down in history. "Not everything, Madam President. There is one species we haven't asked for help. A species we feared so much that we quarantined their entire solar system." Whispers filled the hall. Everyone knew which species he meant. "You cannot be serious," shouted one representative. "The Deathworlders. They're savages. Savages who survive conditions that would kill any of us," Reed countered. "Their planet has temperatures ranging from burning heat to freezing cold. They live through natural disasters that would destroy our cities. Their bodies are host to millions of microscopic life forms, and they survive." The holographic display changed, showing a new image. Earth, a beautiful blue planet that every spacefaring race had been taught to avoid. "Humans," Reed continued, "can run until their prey drops from exhaustion. They can survive injuries that would kill us instantly. Their bodies can adapt to almost any environment. And most importantly, they think differently than us. They think like survivors." The council president raised her hand for silence. "Captain Reed, you do realize what you're suggesting. These humans don't even know they're not alone in the universe. We have kept them isolated for the past 300 years because our scientists deemed them too dangerous for contact." "Yes, Madam President, but what's more dangerous? A species that can survive almost anything, or a hive mind that can consume everything?" A new wave of murmurs swept through the hall. Reed could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. Hope. Desperate hope. "Let me show you something," Reed said. He played a video of a human marathon runner. "This human is running for pleasure, not survival, not hunting. Pleasure. They push their bodies to limits that would kill most species just to see if they can." He showed more videos. Humans surviving in deserts, climbing frozen mountains, diving into deep oceans. While we evolved in comfortable environments and built technology to avoid challenges, humans evolved by overcoming challenges. They don't run from problems. They run toward them. The council president stood, her crystalline form catching the light. "What you suggest is unprecedented, Captain. Breaking 300 years of quarantine, approaching a species that doesn't know about galactic civilization, asking for help from those we once feared." "With respect, Madam President," Reed interrupted, "we are out of options. The hive mind grows stronger with each system it consumes. We need something it hasn't encountered before. We need unpredictability. We need survivors." He paused. "We need humans." The Great Hall erupted in heated debate, but Reed could see it in their eyes. They knew he was right. They had built their civilization on technology and comfort. But now, they needed something else. They needed a species that had built itself on survival against all odds. The council president raised her hand again, bringing silence to the hall. All those in favor of lifting the quarantine and contacting Earth. One by one, lights began to glow across the hall. Fear was giving way to desperation. With nothing left to lose, they were ready to call upon the Deathworlders. The vote was almost unanimous. For the first time in 3 centuries, a ship would be sent to Earth. The fate of the galaxy now rested on a species that most had hoped never to meet. Ambassador White felt strange walking into the United Nations building. Just 1 week ago, he had been quietly observing Earth from the Council's hidden base on Mars. Now he was about to change human history forever. The emergency meeting of the UN Security Council went silent as he entered. His appearance, tall, blue-scaled, and definitely not human, caused several guards to raise their weapons. He kept his hands visible and moved slowly. "Please, I mean no harm," White said, using the translation device on his neck. "I come with both an apology and a request for help." The Secretary General, an older man with gray hair, spoke first. "You've been watching us." "For how long?" 300 years, White admitted. "We owe you an explanation." He pressed a button on his wrist, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth, but from an alien perspective, marked as Deathworld Class 12. "Your planet is unique," White continued. "The extreme temperature ranges, the natural disasters, the variety of predators, the countless diseases. Most species would die here within days. But you thrive." The room remained silent, processing this information. White could see a mix of emotions on their faces: anger at being kept in the dark, pride at their strength, and curiosity about what came next. "We were afraid," White said simply. "Your people can survive conditions that would kill most species. You eat foods that would poison us. You live with millions of microscopic organisms in your bodies. You even enjoy activities that cause physical pain. You call it exercise." A military general leaned forward. "You're saying you quarantined Earth because we're too tough?" "Yes. The Galactic Council voted to isolate Earth until humans became less." White searched for the right word: resilient. The Secretary General's expression hardened. "And now you need our help, after keeping us isolated for centuries." White nodded and changed the hologram. Now it showed silver machines consuming entire planets. "This is why we're here. A silicon-based hive mind is destroying our galaxy. Our weapons don't work. Our shields fail. We've lost 32 solar systems already." The hologram showed scenes of battle, advanced alien ships being torn apart by the silver tide. "Our civilizations evolved to avoid hardship. We built technology to make life easier. But you," he looked around the room, "you evolved by overcoming hardship. You don't just survive. You adapt and grow stronger." One of the ambassadors spoke up. "What exactly are you asking for?" "We need your soldiers, your survivors, your fighters. People who think differently than us. People who don't give up." White paused. "We need Deathworlders." The room erupted in discussion. White waited patiently as Earth's leaders debated among themselves. He understood their anger and distrust, but he also saw something that gave him hope: the same fire in their eyes that Captain Reed had talked about. The Secretary General called for order. "If we agree to help, what's in it for Earth?" "Full membership in the Galactic Council," White replied. "Access to all our technology, and our word that Earth will never be isolated again." A military advisor stood up. "I volunteer to assess this threat. Send me to see these battles firsthand." White looked at the man carefully. His name tag read Major Tom. He stood straight and confident, but White could see more than that. This human had the eyes of someone who had faced death and won. "The Council requests a team of your best," White said. "People who can think creatively, fight differently, and survive where others can't." Major Tom smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I know just the people. When do we start?" The Secretary General raised his hand. "We need time to discuss this. Ambassador White, please wait outside." As White left the room, he heard them talking. They were angry about the isolation, yes, but they were also excited. Humans, he realized, didn't just face challenges, they welcomed them. Outside the room, White sent a message to the Council. First contact successful. They're angry, but they're also ready to fight. And after seeing them up close, he paused before finishing his message. I think we made the right choice. These Deathworlders might be our only hope. Major Tom and his team of 12 elite soldiers stepped off the alien transport ship and onto the Galactic Council station. The aliens had warned them about the standard gravity, but nothing could have prepared them for the reactions they would get. The entire arrival hall cleared in seconds. Alien species of all shapes and sizes pressed themselves against the walls, their fear obvious. Some even fled the room entirely. Well, Major Tom said to his team, that's quite a welcome. Captain Reed approached them, his blue scales shimmering under the station's lights. Please forgive them. Most species here have never seen a Deathworlder in person. Your natural abilities frighten them. One of Tom's soldiers, Bill, looked confused. Natural abilities? We're just standing here. Yes, Reed replied, standing in gravity that should make it difficult to even move. Yet you walk as if you're on Earth. Tom looked around the station with new understanding. The gravity here was about half of Earth's, but to the aliens, this was their normal. They had evolved on worlds with much weaker gravity. Captain Reed, Tom said, would you like to see what humans can really do? Reed nodded nervously. The Council has prepared a testing chamber. They want to understand your capabilities before sending you against the hive mind. The testing chamber was large, with observation windows filled with curious alien scientists. Tom's team went through basic exercises: running, jumping, lifting weights. With each demonstration, the aliens' fear turned to amazement. Impossible, one scientist shouted when Bill ran for 2 hours straight without stopping. No species should be able to maintain that level of activity. Another scientist fainted when Lisa demonstrated human temperature tolerance, switching between a heat chamber and a freezing room with only minor discomfort. How do you do this? Reed asked, watching as Tom's team completed an obstacle course that would have exhausted most alien species in minutes. We don't do anything special, Tom explained, barely out of breath. This is just how we evolved. On Earth, our ancestors had to run down prey, survive extreme weather, and adapt to constant challenges. It's in our blood. The real shock came during the strategy meeting. The Council's military leaders presented their standard battle tactics: complex formations, advanced shield configurations, and precise weapon coordinates. Tom listened patiently, then stood up. With respect, he said, this won't work against the hive mind. You're fighting like machines, trying to find the perfect solution. That's exactly what the hive mind expects. He walked to the holographic display. Show me the last battle you lost. The display lit up with scenes of council ships being overwhelmed by the silver tide. Tom watched carefully, then smiled. Your problem, he said, is that you fight fair. You try to match strength with strength. But humans, we survived by being unpredictable, by doing what our enemies thought was impossible. What do you suggest? Reed asked. Tom's smile grew wider. You've been fighting like advanced aliens. It's time to fight like Deathworlders. No complex formations, no perfect solutions. We adapt, we improvise, and we never do what the enemy expects. He turned to his team. Show them the Earth way. For the next hour, Tom's team demonstrated guerrilla tactics, survival techniques, and fighting styles that horrified and fascinated the alien observers. They showed how humans could use their environment as a weapon, how they could keep fighting even when exhausted, and how they could turn an enemy's strength against itself. This is barbaric, one council member whispered. No, Reed replied, watching as the humans moved with deadly grace. This is survival. This is what we need. At the end of the day, as Tom's team rested in their quarters, Reed visited them one last time. The council has reviewed your demonstrations, he said. They're terrified and impressed. They've authorized full support for your methods against the hive mind. Tom nodded. Good, because tomorrow we start teaching your forces how to fight like Deathworlders. And after that, he looked at the distant stars through the station window. After that, we show this hive mind why Earth was classified as a death world. The aliens had expected soldiers. Instead, they got survivors, warriors who had evolved on a planet that never stopped trying to kill them. And for the first time since the hive mind appeared, the galaxy had hope. The first battle against the hive mind went exactly as Major Tom predicted, completely wrong for the Council forces. "Pull back! Pull back!" Captain Reed shouted as the silver tide tore through the Council's perfect formation. Their advanced ships, arranged in textbook patterns, were being ripped apart by the hive mind's smaller units. But then something changed. From the darkness of space, 3 small human shuttles appeared. They weren't flying in formation. They weren't following any pattern. They were flying like crazy people, according to the Council pilots. "Now this is what I call a fight." Bill whooped as he piloted his shuttle straight toward the silver tide. The Council commanders watched in horror as the human ships flew directly into what they considered certain death. "What are they doing?" Reed asked, watching from the command ship. Tom's voice came over the radio, calm and focused. "We're showing you how Deathworlders fight. Watch and learn." The 3 human shuttles dove into the swarm of hive mind units. Instead of trying to maintain distance like the Council ships, they got so close that the hive mind couldn't predict their movements. They twisted, turned, and used the hive mind's own units as shields against its attacks. "Impossible," one alien commander gasped as Lisa's shuttle spun between 2 hive mind destroyers, causing them to fire on each other. "No," Tom replied, his shuttle dancing through the chaos. "This is how you survive on Earth. You use your enemy's strength against them. You turn their advantages into weaknesses." The human shuttles were smaller than the Council ships, more agile. Where the Council relied on shields and formation, the humans relied on speed and unpredictability. They fought like Earth's predators, quick, fierce, and without mercy. "All Council ships," Tom commanded, "break your formations. Fight like we showed you in training. Be unpredictable. Be dangerous." Some Council pilots hesitated, generations of training telling them to maintain order. But as they watched the humans turning the battle into chaos, they began to understand. One by one, Council ships broke formation. They started moving erratically, copying the humans' aggressive style. The hive mind, used to fighting ordered battles against predictable enemies, began to falter. "It's working," Reed shouted as he watched the silver tide break apart. The hive mind units, designed to counter organized attacks, couldn't adapt to this new fighting style. Tom's voice crackled over the radio again. "This is why you needed Deathworlders. We don't fight fair. We don't follow patterns. We survive." The battle turned into something the galaxy had never seen. Council ships, guided by human instincts, drove into the heart of the hive mind swarm. They stopped trying to be perfect and started being deadly. "Look at the readings," one Council scientist reported. "The hive mind is trying to predict our movements, but it can't. There's no pattern to predict." After 3 hours of intense fighting, the silver tide retreated for the first time since it had appeared. The Council ships, many damaged but still fighting, had won their first victory. In the aftermath, Tom and his team stood before the Council, explaining what had happened. "You've been fighting this war like advanced aliens," Tom said. "Perfect formations, predictable patterns, everything by the book. But the hive mind is a machine. It learns patterns. It counters perfection." He pointed to the battle recordings. "We fight like survivors. We do the unexpected. We take risks that machines can't understand. This is how Earth's creatures survive, by being unpredictable, by doing what seems impossible." The Council leaders looked at each other. Years of civilization had taught them to value order and precision. But now they saw something different, the raw, powerful survival instincts of a species that had evolved on a death world. "Teach us," the Council president said. "Teach us how to fight like Deathworlders." Tom smiled. "That's why we're here. But remember, This was just one battle. The hive mind will adapt. It will learn. And when it does, he looked at his team, seeing the same fierce determination in their eyes. When it does, we'll show it that humans are really good at adapting too. The galaxy was changing. The council races were learning that sometimes survival meant embracing chaos, taking risks, and fighting like their civilized way of life had never happened. They were learning to fight like humans. 3 weeks after their first victory, the mood of the council station had changed. The hive mind had adapted. It no longer tried to predict patterns. It simply overwhelmed everything with sheer numbers. Major Tom stood before the emergency council meeting, his uniform still scarred from the last battle. The holographic displays showed 5 more solar systems lost in the past week. Our unpredictable tactics aren't working anymore, he admitted. The hive mind has learned to ignore patterns completely. It just throws more units at us until we're overwhelmed. Captain Reed, now sporting a bandaged arm, nodded grimly. Even with human fighting techniques, we're losing ships faster than we can build them. The council president's crystalline form dimmed with worry. Then we have failed. The hive mind will consume everything. Tom looked at Lisa, his team's science expert. She gave him a slight nod. It was time to share their crazy idea. Not everything, Tom said. We haven't tried Earth's smallest warriors yet. The alien leaders looked confused. Lisa stepped forward, holding up a small container. This, she said, is a sample of normal Earth bacteria, the kind that lives in our bodies, in our soil, everywhere on our planet. To us, they're mostly harmless. We evolved with them. But to the hive mind, you want to use diseases as weapons, one council member asked, horrified. That's barbaric. No, Tom corrected, not diseases. Life. Earth life. The kind that adapts faster than anything else in the galaxy. The kind that can survive almost anywhere. He pressed a button, and the hologram showed microscopic images of Earth bacteria. These organisms have survived on Earth for billions of years. They adapt to new threats in days, not years. They can eat almost anything, even metal, given the right conditions. The council chamber erupted in argument. Using living weapons was something no civilized species would consider. But then again, they were fighting for survival. Bill, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. You called Earth a death world because everything there is dangerous. Well, these bacteria are part of what makes Earth dangerous. They break down anything that doesn't belong. They adapt to any defense. Sound familiar? The council president leaned forward. You're suggesting we fight the hive mind with microscopic life. Exactly, Tom said. The hive mind is made of silicon and metal. It's never encountered Earth's bacteria. It won't know how to fight them because it's never had to evolve defenses against them. Lisa opened her container and placed a small sample under a scanner. The hologram showed the bacteria actively breaking down a piece of metal. These are metal-eating bacteria, she explained. They normally live near underwater volcanoes on Earth. To them, the hive mind would be just another meal. The council scientists rushed to study the samples. Their fear turned to amazement as they watched the bacteria work. This is how Earth life survives, Tom continued. Not just by being strong or fast, but by adapting, by evolving, by turning anything into food. One of the council generals spoke up. But how do we use them in battle? The hive mind's defenses won't matter, Tom interrupted. These bacteria are smaller than anything the hive mind can detect, and once they start eating, they'll multiply. The more the hive mind fights, the more it'll feed them. The council president stood, her crystal form glowing brightly. You're suggesting we infect the hive mind with Earth life, turn its bodies into food for these organisms? Yes, Tom said simply. Fight machines with life. Fight perfect logic with messy, unstoppable evolution. The chamber fell silent. The council had feared Earth because everything there was deadly. Now they were considering using that deadliness as a weapon. If we do this, Reed said quietly, "There's no going back. We'll be changing the way war is fought forever." Tom looked at the maps showing the hive mind's advance. The hive mind changed everything first. "We're just showing it that Earth's smallest life forms can be more dangerous than any weapon." The council president called for a vote. One by one, the lights turned green. They had reached their breaking point. It was time to show the galaxy why Earth's biology was feared across the stars. "Prepare the delivery systems," Tom ordered. "It's time to show the hive mind why they call us Deathworlders." The combined fleet of human and council ships faced the largest swarm of hive mind units ever seen. The silver tide stretched across space like a metal ocean, covering an entire solar system. Major Tom stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the final preparations. Around him, crews loaded specially designed containers filled with Earth's bacteria into missile pods. "All ships report ready," Lisa said from her station. "The bacteria have been modified to multiply 10 times faster than normal. Once they start eating the hive mind's metal, nothing can stop them." Tom nodded grimly. "Everyone remembers the plan." "Yes, sir," Bill replied. "We punch a hole through their defenses. You and your team take the delivery ship straight to the hive mind's core. Either we win everything, or we lose everything." Captain Reed, who had insisted on joining the mission, checked the final readings. "The hive mind is still gathering more units. It thinks we're planning another normal attack." "Good," Tom said. "Let it think that. We learned to be unpredictable. Now we'll show it something it could never predict." The battle began like any other. Council ships formed loose, chaotic patterns, fighting the way humans had taught them. The hive mind responded by sending waves of units to overwhelm them. But this time was different. Every destroyed council ship released clouds of specially prepared bacteria into space. Every explosion spread Earth's microscopic warriors wider. "First signs of infection confirmed," Lisa shouted excitedly. "The bacteria are surviving in space and starting to eat through the hive mind's outer units." Through the viewing screen, they could see it happening. Patches of the silver tide began to dull and break apart. The bacteria were doing their job, turning the hive mind's metal bodies into food. "Now," Tom commanded, "all ships, push forward. Create the path." The fleet surged forward, sacrificing ships to clear a route to the center of the hive mind swarm. Each destroyed ship spread more bacteria, widening the infection. Tom and his small team boarded the delivery ship, a specially modified vessel packed with the most aggressive metal-eating bacteria Earth could provide. "This is crazy," Reed said as they flew into the heart of the battle. "A suicide mission to hand-deliver bacteria." "Welcome to how humans fight," Tom replied with a grim smile. "Sometimes you have to do something so crazy that no logical mind would expect it." The delivery ship took heavy damage as they pushed through the swarm. Around them, the battle raged. Council ships fought and died, spreading more infection with each explosion. The hive mind's units began showing signs of confusion as the bacteria ate through their communication systems. "We're approaching the core," Bill shouted from the pilot's seat. But the ship's breaking apart. Through the holes in their hull, they could see the hive mind's central mass, a massive sphere of shifting metal that controlled the entire swarm. And it was already showing signs of bacterial infection, its perfect surface turning dull in patches. "The ship won't make it," Reed warned. "We need to turn back." "No," Tom said firmly. "Humans don't turn back." "Bill, set the engines to overload. Lisa, open all the bacterial containers. Everyone else, to the escape pods." "Sir," Lisa hesitated. "The pods won't survive out there." "Some might," Tom replied. "That's more chance than we have staying here. Now go." As his team rushed to the escape pods, Tom stayed on the bridge with Bill. They aimed the failing ship directly at the hive mind's core. "Engine overload in 30 seconds," Bill reported calmly. "It's been an honor, sir." "Same here," Tom said. "Let's show this hive mind what Earth's life can really do." The delivery ship crashed into the core just as its engines exploded. The blast scattered the concentrated bacteria samples everywhere, forcing them deep into the hive mind's central processors. From their escape pods, the surviving team members watched as the infection spread rapidly through the hive mind's core. The mighty silver tide began to break apart as its control center was eaten away by microscopic life from a death world. "Look," Reed pointed from his pod. "The swarm, it's falling apart." The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, they could see how it would end. Earth's smallest creatures were proving more powerful than the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. The hive mind, for all its power and logic, had finally met something it couldn't adapt to: the relentless, hungry life from a planet it had never encountered. A planet called Earth. 1 month after the final battle, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Gone were the old barriers that had kept species separate. Now, humans stood among the alien representatives as equals. Lisa, still recovering from injuries sustained during their escape, stood before the council to present their final report. The holographic displays showed the remains of the hive mind, now reduced to harmless chunks of metal by Earth's bacteria. "The infection was completely successful," she explained. "The metal-eating bacteria broke down 98% of the hive mind's units. The remaining 2% were destroyed by our ships. The threat is over." The council president's crystal form glowed with respect, and the bacteria themselves. "They died out once they ran out of the specific metals they eat," Lisa answered. "That's another thing about Earth life. It adapts to survive, but it also needs the right conditions to live." Captain Reed, his arm finally healed, stepped forward. "We found escape pods from the delivery ship scattered across 3 systems. Most of the human team survived." His voice grew quiet. "But Major Tom and Bill, their sacrifice saved us all." The chamber observed a moment of silence for the fallen heroes. Then the council president spoke again. "Today, we do more than just celebrate victory. Today, we admit we were wrong." She turned to face the human representatives. 300 years ago, we feared Earth because it was too dangerous. We called you Deathworlders and isolated you. But we didn't understand that sometimes survival requires strength that seems dangerous. On the main screen, images appeared of other quarantined worlds, planets that the Council had deemed too hostile for contact. "We've learned from Earth," the President continued. "These other death worlds, perhaps they too have strengths we need. Perhaps being dangerous isn't always bad." One of the human leaders stood up. "Earth is willing to help evaluate these worlds. We understand them in ways you can't. We know what it means to evolve in harsh conditions." The council chamber filled with approving murmurs. The galaxy was changing. The old fear of dangerous worlds was being replaced by respect for survival. "There's something else," Reed added. "The human team didn't just save us with their bacteria. They taught us how to think differently, how to adapt, how to survive." Around the chamber, council species nodded in agreement. Many of them had fought alongside humans in the final battles. They had learned to be unpredictable, to think like survivors. In honor of their service, the president announced, "The council has created a new position, Deathworld Relations. Captain Reed will lead this department, working with Earth to establish contact with other isolated worlds." Reed looked surprised but pleased. "I can think of no better way to honor Tom and Bill's memory than to help other survivor species join our galaxy." Lisa stepped forward again. "We've already identified 3 promising worlds. Their species evolved in conditions similar to Earth. They could teach us things we never imagined." The council voted unanimously to approve the new initiative. As the session ended, humans and aliens mingled freely, sharing stories and ideas. The barriers of fear had been broken forever. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Lisa found a small plaque being installed. It showed an image of the delivery ship's final moment, and below it were written the words, "In memory of Major Tom and Bill, who taught the galaxy that sometimes the smallest life forms from the most dangerous worlds can save us all." Reed joined her, looking at the plaque. "You know what Tom would say about all this." Lisa smiled. He'd probably say we're being too dramatic, that we just did what humans always do, find a way to survive. And that's exactly why we needed you, Reed replied. The galaxy forgot how to survive, Earth reminded us. As they looked out at the stars through the chamber's windows, they could see ships preparing for the first mission to another death world. The galaxy had changed. Fear had been replaced by curiosity, isolation by connection. Somewhere out there, other survivors were waiting to join them. Other Deathworlders who, like humans, had evolved to face impossible odds. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where being dangerous wasn't a reason for fear, but a sign of strength. Earth was no longer alone, and the galaxy was stronger for it.